Welcome everyone to the Soundtrack of Our Lives podcast. Today we have Abby Posner joining us. So Abby, I noticed that you posted, I think it was today, a little sneak peek of a new song.
Yeah, I did. It was this morning. It was like 2 hours ago.
Can
Um,
you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, for sure. So my first album, well, I've put out many records in the last, gosh, I would say over 20 years. I've put out several albums under different names. But the most recent album I put out in August of last year, and it's called Second Chances. And it's kind of about this healing journey about a breakup and grief and repair and going through the process of
Mhm.
healing. And this new record is going to be a little bit of an extension of that, except more about the journey toward healing myself. And
Okay.
so the latest song that I just put out is kind of about the rising period of grief when you start to come back into your body and into your essence and um yeah, that's kind of what this is about. Someone framed it, Jen Hatmaker, who's this incredible speaker and um author. She says that grief is made up of three stages. It's the unraveling, the rebuilding, and the rising, and I feel like I started to really get to the rising recently. So I wanted to write about that stage.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, so your album Second Chances is amazing. Can you talk a little bit about how your personal experiences kind of shaped the creation of it?
Thank you, first of all, for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I say this pretty often in interviews that music is really the only healing anchor that I can depend on. Everything else is impermanent, it's changing. I mean, music is also kind of constantly changing, but um, I've always used music as a source of therapy, journaling, healing, kind of
Mhm.
reflecting. And that album was definitely made at the very beginning of this really tumultuous breakup. And, each song is about different parts of the relationship, but it's also about different parts of myself. And, um, looking back on it, I wrote it about 2 years ago. So it was almost like I needed it. Like I needed to make that album in order
Mhm.
to survive this horrendous thing that has happened, or that happened to me. Um, I think art is really the most incredible anchor because you can take everything that's happening inside and you can put it out onto a page or a
Mhm.
canvas or sonically a song. And then the hope is that, people resonate with it and that they can go, "Oh my gosh, me too. Like I went through a loss. I went through a breakup. I this album helped me to heal." So then it becomes someone else's story
Mhm.
instead of my own. And that's kind of what it was really just like me gripping on for dear life so that I didn't like fall into the deep end.
Mhm.
That's what the album was. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you have and had that outlet when you were writing the album.
Me too. I know that a lot of people use different things to heal and some not so healthy things like
Mhm.
drugs and alcohol. But I do think that, again, art is like the most healing thing someone can turn to.
Yeah. And then, so now that it has been released, how has your experience with that album changed?
That's a great question. So, yeah, it was interesting. I started writing the album a couple years ago. And then, I would find out all these twists and turns along the way with my ex and the progression of what was happening in that breakup. And then I had to tour and and I had to play these songs that were essentially a love letter to her, but also, again, more about my own healing. And
Mhm.
as I toured with this album, I think it was the most cathartic thing, playing these songs. I thought it was
Okay.
going to be brutal,
Mhm.
but it actually turned into this kind of healing this source of healing in itself, where I was feeling empowered, singing
Hmm.
these songs and feeling like this is my story. This is
Yeah.
not about her anymore. This is me, and kind of taking it helped me feel like I was in control, I think.
Hmm. That makes
Yeah.
sense. That's really cool. How do you balance like the personal storytelling with the commercial success or a commercial appeal in your songwriting?
I love these questions.
Thank
This
you.
is great. This is great. So I write a lot of songs for sync, which is basically a licensing, for film and TV.
Hmm.
And I think I have to turn on a different switch when I'm writing for that for sync,
Hmm.
as opposed to writing for myself and my healing. It is a real task to be able to make something commercially accessible and also very personal. That
Hmm.
is a challenge. While I was writing Second Chances, I was not thinking so much about the accessibility, although there are of course like song structures and forms and choruses and hooks that I wanted to focus on as like I want this to pop. But
Hmm.
I wasn't thinking like this is going to be in a Nike's commercial, like I was definitely thinking more along the lines of like is this resonating with my heart? Now, in certain cases I have some writers that I collaborate with for sync, and we're thinking like what's the goal for this song, like what's
Hmm.
the brief, what are we going to pitch it to, and so simultaneously with writing Second Chances, I was collaborating with my dear friend Will Carpenter from the band Ships Have Sailed, and we wrote a song that was also like a protest song
Hmm.
after Roe v. Wade was overturned, but simultaneously became this like we should pitch this to sports teams and anthems, and like because it's such a stadium song, and
Hmm.
we've had really just like I'm so grateful to say that we've had such success with that song, and we were focused on a specific sound,
Hmm.
like that was the commercial accessibility piece of it. We pitched it to the LA Kings, and now they're using it on their jumbotron, and we pitched it to different TV shows, and have had a few bites there, and then we won the USA Songwriter competition last year, and I think that just goes to show that we should all be collaborating with people that are different from our, have a different artistic perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does collaborating affect your solo work?
So, I have done, it's interesting. I almost think of it like split personality in a
Hmm.
sense. Like I really like this process when I'm writing for my own stuff, where I'm like in my studio, I have my stuff all wired up and like all my instruments ready to go. And it's like just me producing and mixing. There's something it's like being a painter and having a blank canvas.
Hmm.
It's my favorite part of the process. And then with a collaborator, it's almost like business, and there's structure, and there's a timeline, and it's like a little bit more, I don't want to say rigid, but it's like it's just a different part of the brain.
Hmm.
And we're both like we have to leave our egos at the door because it's about the song. It's like we're feeding the song. We're not
Hmm.
feeding ourselves. So when you're doing something like, I'm here and I'm at my console and I'm mixing, like, of course, there's going to be ego and shame and fears and this and that and all the muck that comes with like, journaling and writing. But
Hmm.
when you're collaborating, you're like, okay, this is like we're a team, and we're like, it's interesting. It's a very different part of the brain.
Hmm. Do you have a preference?
I think in the last 3 years, it was when I really started doing co-writing and co-producing. And it was really good for me because I needed that. Like I needed to be stretched, and I love getting pushed out of my comfort zone. I know a lot of people don't say that, but it's like my favorite thing because it makes me more expansive. And
Hmm.
so I think I'm grateful that I put myself in that position. It was during the pandemic. I started doing a lot of co-writing over
Hmm.
Zoom. I wouldn't say I have a preference. I'd say they're both just so different. And like the way I feel about writing my own songs versus collaborating, it's just a different different sensations, different goals. I can't say I like one more than the other.
That makes sense. They're very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so your music blends various genres. How do you maintain a cohesive sound while having all of the diverse sounds?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been someone that's been really influenced by punk and jazz and blues and bluegrass. And like, I just think that when it comes down to it, music is music.
Hmm.
And it all comes from the roots of the same place, um, which is essentially, gospel music of Appalachian folk music. It kind of all comes from the same place, punk music,
Hmm.
you know. So I think that especially lately, the industry is shifting in terms of genre bending. I think
Hmm.
that it's becoming much more acceptable than, say, in the 90s when I was young. Like, I just don't think that it would have been something people could have handled. In the 2000s, like I'd say mid 2000s is when you could see some shape shifting happening. The Lumineers have done some really cool folk indie stuff, but they've gone a little rock. And
Yeah.
Vampire Weekend, really pushes the boundaries between like reggae, world music, rock, and
Hmm.
like these are some of the bands that I look to, indie bands that are
Hmm.
like doing really cool shape shifting.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that having a cohesive sound is really just in the writing and like the flavors. Like it's the ingredients that you sprinkle in, right? Like
Hmm.
it's oh, like that's an Abby Posner song. That's a chorus that like and her voice. Like it's just like the foundation for it is like my vocals hopefully carry through, and the fact that there's always going to be folk and there's probably always going to be a little bit of punk. Like
Hmm.
that's just what I grew up on. I grew up on folk and I grew up on punk. So both of those elements are going to be in there.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
then going off of diverse sounds, so you play a lot of instruments. How do you approach learning new instruments? And then do you have a favorite instrument to play?
I haven't learned a new instrument in a long time. I've actually thought about like learning the trumpet because I
Hmm.
used to play French horn when I was like 9. I don't know that I have the bandwidth to learn another instrument right now,
Hmm.
but I do play multiple things. Some things I wish I played better than others, but I would say my favorite, my loyal companion is my guitar, because I feel the most comfortable on it. And then I would say banjo, mandolin, and drums come in pretty close.
Okay.
I do love playing the drums. That's one of my favorite. I feel really free and alive when I play the drums. And piano is my first instrument. I've had a love-hate relationship with it since I was little, and um, I tried to like push myself out of my comfort zone again a few years ago with I wrote an album just on piano
Hmm.
because I needed to kind of like go head to head with my relationship with that instrument. It's a very, you know, um, I'm like looking at it now, like I see you, piano. It's one of those instruments that's like there's a lot of structure to it, and I have a lot of kind of PTSD about piano lessons, and all I wanted to do was be free and write.
Hmm.
And I think that record actually helped me get over my stuff. But
Yeah.
my favorite instrument is guitar, and I wish I played cello, and I wish I played trumpet, but I don't.
Are you gonna learn? Do you have any plans to learn them or?
I mean, maybe I might learn yeah, I might learn the cello. I might actually I might do that. I mean, it's like I would teach myself and do it poorly and fake
Hmm.
it. So maybe someday.
How does your DIY hands-on approach to your music production contribute to the raw authenticity of your sound?
I think it's a huge a huge addition. I think that it's a huge part of what I do. Because I do everything here
Hmm.
in this space, and I mix it and produce it here as well. So I think, the sound that I'm chasing uh, is exactly what you said, raw. It's vulnerable. It's a little messy. It's not like perfect. Um, and I go back to this album constantly in my life. It's a Bright Eyes record. I'm wide awake. It's morning, and I don't know if you've heard that album.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So that album to me is like the epitome of greatness.
Hmm.
I think that it's just so messy and beautiful and raw. And I think I'm like, and Bonnie Iver's records, everything that Bonnie Iver touches, I feel turns to gold. And so I think I'm trying to do this blend of kind of messy beauty that is like a little bit of folk and a little bit of rock and electronic combined like this.
Hmm.
uh so yeah, doing it here is important. However, I want to do a record with my band at some point that's just like
Hmm.
us playing in a room together. And that's a different sound. There's a couple songs on Second Chances where we're doing that. There's like three songs. And that's Simple Life, Darkest Hours, and Night Train. And that's me and the band. That's not
Okay.
me producing. So, it works. It's cohesive enough
Hmm.
to the other stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to record.
Yeah, what made you decide to do it with the band for those particular songs?
I think I wanted to capture some videos of us in the studio
Hmm.
playing live, for content and for pitching to various festivals and shows.
Hmm.
And I knew that that was an opportunity to get like a really solid uh, capture us visually, but also I
Hmm.
was like, hey, why not like use the soundboard and maybe that'll be on the album. And I had already produced all of those songs actually.
Hmm.
I had already produced those three on my own, and I
Okay.
just put a comparison. I listened between the three and I was like, oh, the band stuff is just stronger.
Hmm.
So I chose those over the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so you talked a little bit about like making videos and content. So kind of how do you approach creating visuals that enhance your songs?
That's a tricky thing. I'm not really much for over the top music videos, although I did make a video with just one of the most incredible directors I've ever worked with a few years ago, Georgia King. Um, and it was of the highest caliber, and I
Hmm.
am so grateful for that. It was my song Emergency Use Only, and she just transformed this piece of music into this like Alice in Wonderland world that was just unbelievable. I can't believe what we did with that. I think recently I've been more into the process and
Okay.
like capturing me in the studio and like here's what it looks like when I'm
Yeah.
recording, and here's what it looks like the song I posted this morning, like this is what it is to be making an album. I think people like to see that. I think it's interesting.
Hmm.
I'm more curious about the live stuff rather than the story.
Hmm.
I made a music video last year, "Quiet on Sunset," which is a song from the record,
Yeah.
and it's just me walking down Sunset Boulevard having instruments thrown at me and like me playing different things as I'm walking.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. There's different ways to capture visuals and content, and I think for me it's process oriented. It's also really
Hmm.
fun for me to like be in that process and
Yeah.
share and get feedback like online.
Hmm.
Like some people will be like, damn, that's great, and then other people will, like a friend of mine will reach out and be like, that's a different song, I'm not sure that that like works on that record. Like,
Yeah.
it's good to like gather information on
Hmm.
social media sometimes.
Yeah. So when you're writing your songs that are very authentic and raw, how do you manage, putting so much of yourself out there with also kind of wanting to keep a little bit of what you're feeling for yourself?
Well, that's a delightful question. Oh my goodness. First of all, I just want to, if my dog is here.
Oh.
That's Murphy. Um, let's see. How do I keep some of the stuff to myself?
But yeah, how do you keep like some of the, stuff that you don't necessarily want to share with the world while also sharing it all with the world?
Oh man, I'm a really I'm finding as I go through life as an adult that I'm a little bit different than most people.
Hmm.
I'm like a better out than in person.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just put it out on the table because this is what it is. So, it's interesting you asked me that because I writing this newer album that
Hmm.
I'm currently working on. I'm like sifting through these songs and I'm actually for the first time like kind of scared to release them because it's like really vulnerable
Hmm.
and I think that that's the best. Those are the places we need to go in
Hmm.
our art, but it's also just like super scary. I mean,
I bet.
I'm looking back at these songs I've written over the last year and it's really highlighting some shame, uh, some vulnerability, some like attachment styles, um,
Hmm.
some some dating explorations. It's really raw. It's more vulnerable than second chances for sure. As I choke on my words, you can
Hmm.
tell. So I'm like, and I've been talking to some friends of mine and some peers. Um, One of my close friends, incredible artist, Mary Scholes. I'll give her a shout out. She's listened to a song and I was like, "Do you think this is like is this okay? Should I put this on the album?" And it's just again, perspectives.
Hmm.
That's really important. She
Yeah.
was able to like say, "Yeah, go for it. Do it." But I don't believe necessarily in keeping anything in if like it's art and music and
Hmm.
it's coming out of me, then like I'll be damned if I'm not going to share it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a great question at an interesting time, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine that putting the album together, it's scary because you're going to be putting all of this out there for everyone to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And second chances, that was scary, but it was almost like this love letter and this like kind of like let's repair and like what can we do to transform this relationship. It was a little bit
Hmm.
less like shame and like there wasn't a lot of like revealing of some like deeper stuff for me that I
Yeah.
deal with, and this new album is like, oh gosh, this is like a therapy album. Like, I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 4 months. I decided to try dry January and I just kept going, and
Hmm.
so kind of coinciding with that sobriety, writing songs about what it's like to be sober for the first time
Hmm.
and cravings and like desires and oof, it gets into the muck of things.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's like a day by day thing.
Yeah.
I may continue to do it and I may not, but I've been feeling more present and grounded since I stopped drinking. So
Hmm.
like why would I drink again?
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So you mentioned like that you're working on putting together the album. What does that process look like for you?
I think this process looks a little bit different because I have written so many songs in the last year in this kind of rebuilding process, and I'm looking back in my hard drive and some of the songs are like fully done and produced already,
Hmm.
and some of them are like a verse because I wanted to like put it on, social media and get like, check the pulse and see if
Hmm.
people were vibing with it. And so I'm like, oh, dang, like I have so much work to do. And also I'm kind of deciding, I'm in that stage of like what's going to stay and what's going to
Hmm.
go and like what's the story here, and I'm
Right.
I'm toying with um different titles. I'm not sure. I'm like, oh, I'm playing with some ideas about
Yeah.
like dating while the world is on fire, like acknowledging that people are still living their lives, but like there's wars going on around us,
Hmm.
and it's like the Wild West out there. So I'm like kind of I think that's the theme is like meeting people along the
Hmm.
way in this healing journey.
I like that. That's a good theme.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
I'm
th- yeah.
hoping people will resonate with it because I know that there are a lot of people that are single and dating right now, and it's
Yeah, I think it'll
really hard to
resonate
navigate.
with everyone because I would say most everyone has had some sort of breakup and then had to get over it and move on and
Yeah, and like
navigated life
yeah,
afterwards.
and like what does ghosting look like? I'll tell
Hmm.
you in this new album. Like, all these different weird things that people do when you're like dating and trying things on and
Yeah.
like narcissistic tendencies, meeting people that are amazing that you could potentially fall for, meeting people that are toxic. Like it's just it's interesting and I'm 40 and like dating has never been more wackadoo. Like so that's kind of what these songs are. It's like it's my journey but I'm also meeting people like stepping stones along the way
Hmm.
that have
Yeah,
helped me grow. Yeah.
that makes sense. I think everyone will be able to relate to that, whether or not it's dating or just like a friendship you've had with somebody that falls apart. It's very much the same.
Yes, and it's less about the people and again more about the internal stuff that we go through like I
Yeah.
said before like craving attachment, intoxicating behavior, uh, attachment. I'm like really big into psychology and like
Hmm.
learning more about attachment stuff, and so it really highlights a lot of that.
So does your interest in psychology influence the music that you write?
Major. I think every song has some sort of philosophical psychological twist.
Okay.
And also every song has like a baseline of like some Buddhism, some
Hmm.
Buddhist philosophies as well because I've been practicing mindfulness for about 15 years now.
Cool.
Hmm.
It's really interesting. I don't think I was listening. What? How much would you say that is on Second Chances?
Man, so much. Yeah, I would say almost yeah, every song. There's like this it's about surrender,
Hmm.
really. Like Buddhism is about letting go of
Right.
acknowledging attachment, letting go. Um it's about patience and equanimity and I think every song on that album is about letting go in some way and
Hmm.
realizing that we just don't have control over everything. Yeah, like I'm like drawing a blank on my song lyrics. It's hard to like quote a song when
Hmm.
I'm not singing. Um, if you want to love on the album is
Hmm.
all about like letting go and
Yeah.
patience and resilience and that's kind of what mindfulness is just surrendering.
Hmm. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, how do you adapt your songs for a live setting, and then what do you hope people take away from your performances?
I would say, I produce everything here, and then I'll send the tracks to my band,
Hmm.
and we'll practice it, and we'll try and get it as close as we can. It's not going to be by any means a Taylor Swift concert where we're like playing exactly to the track. Like
Hmm.
it's not going to be, and I'm not saying Taylor Swift, she's amazing and does incredible things with her live shows, but like we don't have a backing track. We're maybe going to change some of the songs and the approach a little bit.
Hmm.
um and the band that I play with in LA, I just have to shout out to them. They're amazing and I want them to run with it and kind of add their own little stamp to it. My backup singer, who's a good friend of mine, Paula Fong, her harmonies just like make my songs better.
Hmm.
And all of my bandmates really do. They enhance the live show quite a bit. So I like that the songs sound different live. I think
Hmm.
and then people will listen to the recorded songs and be like, "Ooh, those are two kind of different experiences." Yeah.
That's really cool because I feel like whenever I come away from a concert, I'm always listening to the music right after anyway, even though I just heard it like 5 minutes ago. And
Hmm.
I think that's very cool that it sounds different.
Yeah, and I think that's why eventually I'm going to want to do a full album with the band, because I do think there's something to be said for replicating a recording kind
Yeah.
of to the T. I think that there's something really beautiful about that.
Hmm.
I also think there's something kind of neat about like, oh, the I didn't know like this production has some different like electronic elements that we don't put into the live show.
Hmm.
So it's almost like kind of discovering little treasures.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do I appreciate the band so much, and like Darkest Hours and Night Train pretty much sound exactly like the record because that's what we played live. So some of the songs are just like to the T.
That's cool. How do you prepare, mentally and physically for the energy that's required during your live performances?
These are great questions,
Thank you.
dude. I think it's really changed, honestly, over the years. I had a funny conversation recently where I was like, yo, like, I've got to prep for this live show. And I realized what prepping for the live show meant was like
Hmm.
resting and like taking care of myself and getting exercise and meditating. Like prepping
Hmm.
for the live show used to be like I have to do my vocal runs and I have to like practice my scales and no, like it's about self-care, like take a bath, you know?
Hmm.
And like prepping for tour especially is like all the baths, like all the meditations, all the breath work, like I do think that that's what prepping looks like for me, and
Hmm.
I'm I less and less want to like go into the audience and talk to people before the show because I need
Hmm.
to preserve my energy to
Yeah.
be on stage. So more I'll like put everything out on the stage. I'll
Hmm.
lay it out and then I'll just be completely present with the audience after.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've got to get in the zone before, and then once it's over, you can relax.
Yeah, and I don't think I learned that until 2 years ago. Like, oh, Abby, you don't need to be on all the time. You
Hmm.
can take some space and because I'm a pretty sociable person. I love
Yeah.
people. I love connecting, and I think it's been a really intense year for me with touring, and I
Hmm.
need to preserve my energy.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of those things you probably learn with time.
It is. It's time. It's aging. It's also like everything's changed since I turned 40. My body's different. Like my knees popping on the road. I mean, like it's all these things that did not happen when I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm like, ooh, I gotta like go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor now and make sure that I don't have vocal nodes and
Hmm.
just checking in on myself and taking extra self care.
Do you have any pre-show rituals, or I guess, or post-show?
I don't have, you know, oh man, it's funny. Like my friend Nikki Levy, when we do her show, we do like we hold hands and we toast, and there's like a very clear ritual with her storytelling
Hmm.
and music show that we play. Shout out to Don't Tell My Mother, but I specifically don't. I think, I want to acknowledge everybody in my band and
Hmm.
I want to like huddle and give them all like intense, creepy eye contact and tell them how much I appreciate them. So maybe that's the ritual is just
Hmm.
gratitude.
Yeah, that's a good ritual. Gratitude's important.
Yeah, it really is. What would we do without it, really?
Yeah. And then do you have a memorable interaction or moment from one of your performances?
I do. I have two that come to mind. Um, and one happened very recently. I was playing a festival with the band, opening for Steve Poltz, and it was through the Tiny Porch concert series that
Hmm.
happens in Los Angeles here. And I had a guy come up to me backstage, an older man in tears, and he said, "I brought uh, my daughter to come see you, and she is queer, and it is so important that she saw you perform, and it was so important to me to watch her see another queer person on stage." And he said the representation is so important, and he was, this is an older gentleman like in tears, and that to me was like, oh my gosh, like that really impacted me, and um, and then the other one was when I was touring in Portland, and I played a radio show with my old bassist. It was a long radio show on KBOO, and I got this email after. I didn't know anyone else. I didn't know anyone was listening. You never know with the radio. Some people
Hmm.
just like zoom by and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to this." But I got a really long email from a fan that just said that they were in a really challenging place and they were experiencing depression, and hearing us play gave them hope and made them want to find light and joy again. And
That's awesome.
oh, it really got me. I was sobbing, and then
Oh,
I wrote them
I
back.
bet.
Yeah, I wrote them back and I was like, come to the show and like I'll like get you comps, and they came and we met, and she still follows me on social media, and it's like it's an interaction that I will truly never ever forget in my entire life. Like people talk about
Hmm.
what is it to make it? Like that is making it to me. If I can impact people and if I can have an effect on human beings, if my music can impact people,
Hmm.
then I've made
Yeah,
it.
that's really beautiful. I'm glad that you had those moments.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. It's really kept me going.
Yeah. I hate asking another question because I feel like that was just so beautiful. I don't even know what to
That's
say.
keep them coming. Just keep them going.
Yeah, so can you shed light on your songwriting process and then how it's different when you're writing for yourself versus for your sync opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I said earlier about the split kind of brain of like
Hmm.
this is a collaborative, sync opportunity versus like journaling and getting the messiness out and like the pain out on a page.
Hmm.
I would say that's the difference is the sync opportunities are much more from a logical, practical kind of like I go back to this word of like structure. I think more structured. And then
Hmm.
the artist stuff is, ooh, I'm feeling something in here and I need it. I need to get it out in
Yeah.
order to understand it and make sense of it, because that to me is the most beautiful part of producing and writing is like it's a puzzle. And then once I'm producing it, I'm like, oh, there it is. The
Hmm.
puzzle's solved now. And I'm feeling more healed getting it out of my body.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hmm.
Is there a particular way that you, when you're like you, do you sit down to write or does it just come to you? How does that work for you?
Yeah, man, it's like sometimes it's like a just when it rains, it pours and I
Hmm.
can't stop. And I'm like, I gotta get home and like write. And then sometimes I'm like forcing it. And that's really challenging. There's my basset hound in the background. But yeah, I do think that sometimes it's like it's just I have to do it. I think with a lot of other songwriters, it's more intentional and like they find times to write. But for me, it's like I have to do it for my mental health, just like a workout. Like I have to work through this melody and structure and lyrics. I have to get it out.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so your music deals a lot with like healing and moving on from different situations in life. What advice do you have for people that are currently dealing with that and moving on?
Yeah. Gosh, I'm gonna go back and quote. This is what I was saying in my post this morning, and maybe I did talk about it earlier here, but I've been talking about it a lot. So I listened to a podcast in the last year. It's called We Can Do Hard Things. It's Glennon Doyle's podcast, and she had a guest on named Jen Hatmaker, and Jen Hatmaker was talking about all of again like all the steps of grieving.
Hmm.
And there was something really, when I heard it for the first time, I was in the unraveling stage, because when you're
Yeah.
grieving, you have to be messy, and
Yeah.
you're just your parts are everywhere. There's nothing you can do. Like
Hmm.
everything is messy. Either you can't function. I mean, there's a song about that on Second Chances about unraveling and then having to like tour and function in the world
Mhm.
at any cost is about that. It's like I literally went on tour and locked my keys in my car while it was running, didn't have a credit card for my rental car. Like it's just messy. And
Mhm.
I think you have to go through these stages. So there's like the unraveling stage and letting yourself be in that and sit with that and inviting those feelings in, which a lot of people don't understand. Like that's what healing is. You have to allow these feelings in and you have to let it move through you in order to really heal. Otherwise,
Mhm.
if you're avoiding, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass later.
Yeah.
Um, and so a lot of it was just me like sitting in the unraveling and crying hours and hours and writing and producing and like getting the ick out.
Mhm.
And then comes the rebuilding where you're like, I have to get my stuff together. And I think for me, that looked like really taking care of myself,
Mhm.
exercising every single day, being outside in the sun, snuggling with this baby baboon that is my basset hound, like finding the little slices of joy that life has,
Mhm.
even though you're still in it. Um, and then, I'm the rising is about like being empowered and like finding yourself again
Yeah.
and like remembering that there's beauty and love and like that I just think it's like going through these stages. It was
Mhm.
really helpful for me. So I heard the podcast while I was in the unraveling, and then I heard it again really recently while I was in the rising.
Mhm.
And it was just incredible to hear her perspective on like, it really is that way. I mean, these things really and it changes. It won't be like this forever.
Mhm.
That's what I would say. If you're going through a breakup or a loss or, you know, um, it's temporary. It's not you're not going to feel this much pain forever.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then what advice do you have for any aspiring musicians?
Don't do it. No, I'm kidding. um, just be yourself. Just be authentically you. Don't try and be anyone else.
Mhm.
Um, and take risks. I think that's the biggest thing I would say to all artists. And, I was having a conversation with a friend recently that was really interesting about like what place are you making art from? Are you making
Mhm.
art here from your head or are you making it from your heart? And I say, always, always feel it. Always feel it because that's the best. That's where the juice is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
I do. Yeah.
so like authentically be you. Allow yourself to be a little bit messy. That resonates with people because we're all freaking human, and stumbling through this wild world. But yeah, feel it. Feel it and release it.
Beautiful. That's good advice.
Thank you.
Before I ask the last question, did you have anything else you wanted to mention or talk about?
I'm gonna be touring a lot this summer. So if anybody hears this and they're like, "Who's that wacky person? I'd like to meet them." I'm gonna be touring in the Midwest in July and August, and I'm gonna be playing a bunch of festivals. I'm playing in Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, Montana. Um, and then I'll be touring again in September and playing a really big festival that I can't announce yet. But yeah, just check out my website and all the tour dates will be there. And then please do follow me on Instagram and Spotify because that's where I'll be releasing new music.
Very exciting. That's so exciting that you're going to be touring and in a bunch of festivals.
Yeah, this is the biggest year for me.
Oh,
This
that's so
is
exciting.
Thank you. 9 festivals, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I'm gonna shout out. I'm doing so many shout outs today,
Go for
but
it.
my booking agent Louise, and I know she'll be tuning into this. I just adore her, and she's done so much work for me, and I could not be where I am without her. So like, cheers. And I also couldn't be where I am without the breakup. And I'm just gonna say that. Like, if
Okay.
I went a different way, I don't think I would be here. So.
Mhm. Yeah, so the last question is, what is the soundtrack of your life?
I love this. Wow. Joni Mitchell will always be there. Always,
Hmm.
always, always. And it's interesting because her songs just I'll hear it, now as opposed to 20 years ago, and it's like completely transformed and it means something else to me than it did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So Joni is there because my mom introduced me to Joni Mitchell when I was really young. Bright Eyes always will be there. And then one of my favorite artists is Andrew Bird.
Hmm.
I find Andrew Bird to be an absolute genius. And, um, you know, I'm going to pull up this Spotify playlist because this is this is like literally what I've been listening to lately. So, there's a lot of really great new artists. Chapel Roan is this like awesome queer artist that's super pop, and I really like what she's doing. The Mountain Goats, 1975. Medium Build is like one of the most incredible artists out there. Um, and Nick Murphy, and Cautious Clay, Fleet Foxes. Yeah, those are a couple of my like favorite things
Hmm.
right now.
Cool. I know you kind of already talked about your socials, but if you want to just drop them now so that people can actually go and follow you.
Yeah. So my Instagram is Abby Posner Music, ABBYPOSNER. And my Spotify is Abby Posner. And you can go to abbyposner.com and sign up for my mailing list for all the all the treats and all the updates.
I'm very excited to see what this year brings for you.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. I really
I'm glad
appreciated
you
the
enjoyed it.
questions. You really thoughtful and yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time.